Good morning, everybody. Senior Pro Rick Witzkin, and this is Pickleball. Fabian, we have a pretty cool guest today.
We do. I'm very excited. I'm going to dare to say that this is going to be the most dynamic episode that you've ever listened to of This is Pickleball. So excited to welcome our guest, Tito Machado, CEO of the beloved DUPR. Tito, how are you?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here. It was supposed to be yesterday. I was a little jet lagged, so thank you for the change. And I really appreciate the beloved. I'm really, really happy to hear that. So excited to go through all of the questions and hopefully we can learn a lot about DUPR plans and everything else that we're gonna do here in the industry. I'm excited.
Absolutely. And along the way, we're going to learn about you too. Before we get started, I've been following your social media. I'm seeing all this stuff on Ironman. I myself just got done with a sprint triathlon, so a puppy compared to what you're getting ready to do. Talk to me about that. That seems to be something that you're very passionate about. How is your training going? What are you training for?
Yeah, I'm training for actually one of the toughest Ironmans in the world. It's called the Ironman Lanzarote. I am originally from the Canary Islands in Spain, and that's one of the islands of my So the Ironman Lanzarote is known to be one of the toughest races in the world, and it kind of like felt a little bit like, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna go all or nothing. That's kind of always my mentality. I think I'm a little bit of a nutter, like my friends call me. Whenever I get something in my head, I have to go all in. So it's been going great, man. I mean, I'm excited. I love to have goals and objectives, and DUPR takes so much of an obsession in my life. So being able to go on a 6-hour ride on a Sunday and don't think about Pickleball ratings is kind of refreshing. But training is going well. I'm excited to go compete, and yeah, man, it just feels good to do hard things, to be honest. So very, very pumped.
Yeah, absolutely. And how many have you done before?
I did a half in Madison that I had never done a triathlon before. I had never run a marathon before. I had never done any kind of these things. I'm a former tennis player, played racket sports for my life, played soccer, all of these different things. I got on a bike one Sunday. My friend told me, "Hey, we should do a triathlon." Next thing I knew, we were signing up for a half right away. So again, a little bit of an extremes guy. I don't know how to do things without going to the extreme. So yeah.
Well, you're in good company. I feel like Rick and myself might have some of those same tendencies. Yeah. Again, welcome to the podcast. Give us a quick little intro. Obviously, where you sit today, CEO of DUPR. But how did you get there? How did pickleball come into your life, and how did you end up in this seat?
Yeah, I used to run tennis facilities back in the day. I started running some UTR events, which was the rating in tennis. UTR events up in New York. The person who is running the commercial side of UTR, Jill Braverman, which is a professional pickleball player, called me and told me about pickleball. Told me that pickleball was exploding. Told me that she was gonna was working with Steve Kuhn to build a professional league, Major League Pickleball, and we need a platform, we need a rating. There was no infrastructure in the sport. Never heard of the sport. I've seen it in the park a couple of times. I didn't even know the name. And then I got flown down to a PPA in Arizona. Saw 3,000 people having beers and White Claws and having fun. And I left my Silicon Valley job to go and build the thing Pickleball without a real thought. Maybe I should have thought about it a little more. And we started building it, man, from the beginning, from all of the learnings, from very little data, from pickle wars, from all of the absolute craziness of the last couple of years have been, and a couple we sold the company or we got a new ownership group and so on. So it's been a crazy journey and to get us to the place that we're in right now.
And timeline-wise, when was that when it began? So how long has DUPR been around?
Yeah, so DUPR has been around since 2022. That's, I mean, it started a little earlier, but I think it was Brooks and Steve kind of started things, starting to recruit some people, have the conversations. I think the first Major League Pickleball event was around November of 2021, if I'm not wrong. So, in January of 2022, that's when, we started creating the team. I came as kind of like the head of commercial, creating all of the clubs and all of those conversations, stuff like that. And then when the Pickle Wars happened, the first Pickle Wars, Jill left. She was the CEO. And then I kind of took over. I had been building the company from the product side, from the technology, from the sales side. Was working with all of the different groups within the organization, and Worcester told me, "Hey, we're gonna put you as head of operations. You're gonna run the whole company until we bring a little bit of a bigger name." I was young, person running this whole project, so take care of it for now. We're gonna bring someone in the future when we're gonna look on some pretty big names to come in. And I was just like, no way, Jose. This is we're gonna make sure that we outwork everyone. And this was again, I felt such an attachment to this project. I had not built it from the beginning. I left the company for a little bit, came back. So it was definitely a passion project that I feel extremely, extremely personal around it.
Tito, how old are you?
I'm 33 years old now.
It's awesome. So, sorry, Fabian. I just wanted to dig into that a little bit because I have a connection to when 2022, was at Steve Kuhn's house with a bunch of people, and he was talking about the iterations of this awesome new ranking system and how the metrics were going to be applied. Really, I certainly know Jill and Ann Worcester. I feel like this kind of came on by a storm. Did you feel like this was a long, drawn out education, or did you feel like, man, you needed to kind of get into a quick training and hit the ground running?
Yeah, no, listen. I think the great thing about this is that I always had the vision on why a rating was important for an industry and for the clubs and for the player experience. So I think that was kind of my point. I'm obsessed with the club play. I think the pro side was very well taken care of. I think everyone was talking about pro tours and building the whole side, and that was always a little bit like just cool to me, uninteresting a little bit. My whole thing was like, I knew that if the sport was growing at the rate that it was growing, we had the opportunity to create an infrastructure at a very early stage that allowed clubs to organize play and maximize the experience and have fun and stuff like that. So that was kind of my whole thought. I felt that from the beginning, and I think that was a little bit of like, it kind of the attachments are from Steve and Jill and Anne, in that sense that it was I was less about MLP and I was more about how we're going to run open plays for the 2-0s and make sure that they're having a good time and we're not fighting and people don't feel like, I knew the open play, everyone is playing pickleball with everyone, wasn't going to last. It's impossible. I think it was very nice at the beginning, but it's people want to maximize their time on the court with the right play. And I think like I was very clear that was going to change.
Yeah, and maybe Rick, you can shed some light onto this too. But prior to 2022, what were the ranking? Like, how was ranking being? And I apologize because I only came into the sport in 2024, right? So, prior to 2022, what did ratings look like, and what kind of system was being used? Was there an alternative to DUPR, or was it a lot more informal?
Oh, so what there was, the legacy systems, right, was the USA Pickleball kind of rating system and a legacy concept around rating people that was on Pickleball brackets and pickleballtournaments.com. I think one of the biggest issues that we had in inserting DUPR is a universal concept, because on the old Pickleball system, it was a scale that it was measured once a year. It was by every age group, right? So every age group had their own rating system. You had an open, you had a 40 plus, you had a 50 plus, you had a 60 plus, you had a 70 plus. So you had all of these different numbers, and the legacy was kind of breaking down by age, right? That was one of the toughest things for us to come in and say, like, by the way, you're not a, a 5-0 and 60 plus anymore. You are a 4-1 now because it's universal and everyone is on the same scale, so everyone is measured under the same number. So that was one of the big issues that we had to deal with on that scale, that it was so fragmented by age groups, and it was a little more like informal and a little more like once you were in that kind of category, you were in that category. You know what I mean? It wasn't as dynamic. So it was a little bit of a status concept, right? So again, that's always been one of the things that we fight in the pickleball community, because once people feel like they are a number, right? They are a number. They are that number and you cannot take it away. So it's been an interesting battle to get people comfortable with evolving numbers depending on how you're performing.
Tito, I was kind of
Interesting.
getting into pickleball back in 2008, 2009. And I just remember, even before I was a senior pro, that you never knew what the tournament was going to use to determine seedings and placements. And, it seemed like there were 3 or 4 different metrics they may use. And it was almost like trying to put a puzzle together to figure out where in the draw you could possibly be placed. And I do and am a supporter of one system that everybody can endorse. And I also have very good friends that are more onto the VAR side of things. There's no perfect science, but I can tell you, being a club owner, and if you didn't know, Tito, the Third Shot Pickleball in Indy is the host facility for This Is Pickleball. So, Fabian and I get up close and personal with the open play and the DUPRs and the non-DUPRs and where they go. I'm sure you've seen it all, but do you feel, Tito, that really having one worldwide embraced system is the best way to have cohesion long term, or do you think multiple systems should or could exist?
Listen, I think, it's a big market. I think there's a lot of players. I think people should use whatever they want to use. I think with Pickleball it's a little different, also because we have long-term deals with PPA, MLP, USA Pickleball, all of the booking system. We have 400 API platforms. So if you want to use Core Reserve, Pop Play, Play by Point, whatever, they have exclusivity with us. The same thing with I will forever be the rating of PPA, MLP, USA Pickleball, APP, and all of the different tours, which I think, listen, again, it's just, I don't think any other rating is ever going to come and kind of take that away from us. I think there is a little bit of a component that people want to use another metric to check it out with the friends and stuff like that. It's fine. I think from what we've seen, it hasn't gotten any adoption, any other rating, even UTR being such a big company, right? Like that they came into the sport, Silicon Valley, stuff like that, they left after a couple of years because we're so into the ecosystem already. And I think it's a little bit the same thing. I think there's less than 1,000 players in the other platforms right now that are using that rating, and no clubs that we know of using that rating. So for us, again, it's where I am okay with anyone coming in. Of course, I think it's good for the industry. For us, again, we know we have long-term deals with every main player to be able to use this. We own the college space, all of the stuff, and we've done so much, even with people discussing and not discussing. We have over almost 2.5 million users right now using DUPR and growing at almost 100,000 players a month using the platform. Those numbers are, honestly, even for us, it's just like, wow. Like whenever I see that, I'm like, I think that's where we're going. So yeah, listen, anyone coming in trying to do good for the sport, always positive. We don't feel like we feel like we're already past the stage where there is going to be any other rating trying to come in or being part of this and stuff like that. They just don't have players, don't have clubs. It's just very tough to be able to get into a space where we've grinded for many years, if that makes sense.
And you both, or maybe it was just Rick that has mentioned VAR. What is VAR for anybody listening that does? I'm really not familiar with what that alternative is.
No, me neither. I think there, it's a little bit of a new concept coming in. I think they have some AI component. We have the same thing. We have a long term with PV Vision, which I think is the leader on the AI side. We're now exclusive with PV Vision and so on. But it's just a rating through coaches. I think a coaching network that you get rated and stuff like that. But as I said, I think they've been already in like for 2 or 3 years, and we haven't seen a lot of traction from them at all. So I think we're starting to see the name more on like social media and stuff like that. But as I said, in terms of adoption, we haven't seen any adoption. It's just kind of like this more coaching, video kind of concept.
Tito, being a co-founder of a professional league, we use DUPR in our metrics to determine lineups and things like that. But also being a player in that league, I think it's real easy to scrutinize a rating component and feel like it's very personal and almost an attack against the player. But I think it's also really important that whether you're a co-founder or a player like me and Fabian's a tournament director, I think it's important to look at the 30,000-foot view of, what is best for the sport. And I do think ratings are best for the sport. I think it's best for open play, certainly seedings, things of this nature. So, there's nothing that's going to be perfect. And I'll give you an example that I took it a little personally 2 weekends ago when I went 8-0 in the Championship Series Pickleball, what's in partnership with MLP. And that's very hard to do because all of these senior pros are all really good. And it did bother me that my DUPR fell 2 of those matches when I went undefeated. And quite frankly, I don't feel like if there's a way to put into DUPR where somebody doesn't go down when they win professionally, like especially when they're not choosing a partner, that would be my preference. But I still appreciate the metrics behind exactly what happened. So I was irritated, but appreciative, if that makes sense.
Yeah, listen, I think it's a great topic, and this is one that is one of the biggest, obviously complaints online, the biggest noise that we get around DUPR. I think one metric that people should understand is that 80%, 85% of the wins, people go up. This is from millions of matches that we have, guys. So 85% of the times that you win, you go up. It's only 15% of times from all of these millions of matches where we see someone going down. This is very important because I think that the whole winning go down kind of concept is a little bit like inflated if you think about it in the total pool of matches. But more importantly, guys, and I think this is why this is a discussion I have quite often is like we're not a ranking system. This is very, very important. We're not a ranking system. We're a calibration. We are an average of all of your matches. And I think this is a little bit of the misconception. I think we live in a very dopamine heavy kind of society where everything is win, go up, get points, go up the ladder. And, you do Duolingo, right? You get the banners on Duolingo. You get your strikes on Duolingo, you do every other app in the world and you're getting all of these different things. That's not DUPR's job. That's not the scale of DUPR. It's not a scale that you're supposed to climb. That's not the job of DUPR. It's not like, oh, we keep winning, we keep climbing. And I think that's the problem that we're having understanding this, because instead of forget the climbing and the reward system, we're not a reward system. Think about calibration. It's more about we learned a little more about you, and now we're adjusting the average, looking at all of your body of data, who you're playing with, who you're playing against, and we're making adjustments. So that's kind of how it goes. So the only way that DUPR goes up considerably, guys, is like if you just get better and your matches over time get considerably better. So Rick, for in your case, I think the most important thing to understand around this is back in the day, right? With Steve, he decided to go into a pure ELO. Yes, simplifying what a pure ELO is something very similar to what chess.com has. You win, you go up, you lose, you go down. Like, it kind of averages itself out. The big issue that we have with that is that chess.com is a digital platform. You get millions of matches every single time, so it does average itself out on the wins and losses because you get so much volume of people playing digitally than in Pickleball. When we look at Pickleball, it's a whole different structure, right? Because it's a physical sport where you need 3 other people, you need to go to a real stage, you need to go to an actual place, play, and then people also have to record it. So there's so many things, if you think about it in terms of volume, that need to happen to be able to get that score from a player. So if I'm only gonna get the winning and losing from the match, I just don't have enough information. I need the score. I need to look at the expectation, which gives me a way higher predictability power and way stronger, accuracy, to be honest, and look at that score. Now, I understand how winning go down is annoying. The problem is that if I don't do that, remember that I'm also saying that the player that lost but overperformed went up. If I'm saying that you can lose and go up, I need to say that you win and go down. Because if not, I'm just moving people up. And that creates inflation. Does that make sense? We cannot have upward movement from the loser and not have movement from the winner, if that makes sense.
I was just going to say, I think part of the issue that most people take with this is maybe kind of, to get back to where you started, is kind of this dynamic aspect that maybe isn't marketed to a point where that sits in people's heads, right? Like, I think we're living in a world right now where DUPR it can be seen as an identity, right? It is a social currency to a certain extent, and people's perception of what it needs to be is that you win, you move up, you lose, you go down. Never should there be an instance where you win, you go down, right? Like, it's there, for some reason, the brain is removing the dynamic part of this thing. And I like hearing you explain it, that makes sense. And that's completely understandable, right? Because I think you do see other instances, and I hope that we can get into this, of just they're being old dupers that are being set on because they accomplished a goal and then they never put in another game, right? So I don't want to leave too far off this topic, but I do want to get into the concept of maybe decay or some of those older, after a certain point of time, those matches falling off and no longer going into the algorithm that calculates what that current score is, right? We all started off, maybe not Rick. Rick was probably born at 5-0. But there's some of us that start at 2 and play too early and get some bad losses. And that is not reflective of who we are in terms of players at this current date. So I want to open that up for maybe where DUPR is going in terms of that direction of having some decay or maybe some degradation of a score if you aren't logging, DUPR games and just sitting on a DUPR score that was there from 2 years ago, right? Like when you first started playing in 2022.
Yeah. Listen, there is a couple of things. First, I think there is a little bit of a misconception with the score from back in the day, counting and keeping. Like I've heard this. I played one match with my wife in 2022, and I'm still holding me back, and that's why I cannot move upwards, and I didn't want to play the tournament. My local pro made me play on this tournament and hold me down, and now my DUPR is stuck, and I cannot get past that result. It doesn't work like that. We're going to go through that in a second. We used to have an extremely dynamic algorithm, and that's the best algorithm. That's exactly what they wanted to do. Okay, have a fully living thing that still exists. It's in the background. We check that. We do adjustments based on that. We call a true north. That true north is a pure dynamic concept, which connectivity. It means it moves according to how much data we're getting from all over the world. Right, so it's a domino effect. Everything is completely connected. So the more we learn, distribution changes. Right, so if I learned that when you build last week is stronger than I thought it was, maybe you get even more credit. So now your DUPR is gonna go up. So that's kind of the most accurate model that can happen. The problem that I had with that model is that people didn't like movement without playing. This was a big issue, right? Like people didn't want to go to sleep being a 4-0 and wake up being a 3-8 because the algorithm learned more about the community, the whole world, the whole network, right? We learn more, so we're adjusting and distributions are changing. that will be the best, right? Because that has decay, that you're dropping the matches out on the bag, you're kind of dropping them out. In our current algorithm, it's a little different. There is nothing holding you back. It's more of like the fact that we do one match at a time. That's the only way we can move you to closer to the play. So everything is there is a weight behind every match. Okay, so if you perform on those matches and you overperform, that weight is gonna influence how much you're gonna go up and how much you can start performing. So overall, it's a little different. There is no matches holding you. The only different thing is that we have a rating right now that only moves when you play. So what we need to see for people to see big jumps is, a constant overperformance for the next couple of matches. If you are a 4-0 and you think you're a 4-5, you perform as a 4-5 in the next 5 to 10 matches. That's going to have a big reflection on your rating. I think the problem that there is when it comes with DUPR as well, and actually the sport of pickleball, guys, and you're going to understand this perfectly. I'm a 5-0 former tennis player. There are days that I get on the court with pros. I'm telling you, man, I'm like, oh my God, I can do this. I can compete. I can play a good match. I feel good. I'm thinking like that match. Dude, pickleball is the only sport where you can for an hour or two, feel like you are in a higher level category than you actually are, and that has happened to all of us that play pickleball. And if people deny it, it's a lie. That day that you're playing well. But remember, we're not measuring you on that great freaking day that you were hitting earnings and you didn't miss a serve and not a return. We're measuring you on your average day, right? And a lot of people don't want to be measured on their average day. They want to be measured on their best day. That's what they feel, that's the representation of their level. So for DUPR, again, I only need you to prove to me that you can perform at the level that you think you are consistently. If you show me that you are performing as a 4-5 consistently, trust me, your rating will go up to the 4-5. It's going to happen there. And listen, we're adding a couple of, we changed the weights a little bit. We are protecting a little more players now than we used to, because we have players that didn't play for a year. And, the reliability and weight will go down. Now, it will be you will see high volatility on their first game. We're protecting more of those scores. We're making sure that doesn't happen. We're not going to see crazy movements after players haven't played for a while. I'm going to allow the player to show me for a couple more matches what their level really is, and those changes are coming. I'm adding more dynamic factors into the algorithm, and yes, there is going to be even more decay. But also, Fabian, as you know this, imagine I drop a match from someone that is a 5-0, and I say this match is going to drop, and now they lose a match and they go to a 4-8, and now they lost their 5-0 status. How happy are they going to be? So I think we're managing a little bit of the consumer behavior, how important this is for them. I don't want them to hate us. I want them to, it's a balance between being the most aggressive that we can be with decay and dynamic and all of this stuff, while also keeping a little bit of the people without going crazy, because this number means so much to them. So yeah.
It's funny how
that helps.
it almost is their identity. And Tito, I've been in the tennis world like you forever and started coaching 35 years ago. And my experience is, sorry to all the gentlemen out there, but men generally think they're better than they are, and women downplay how good they are. That's what I've seen in all of my years. That being said, I think there's a definite need for a reality check. And I also think I've seen where people's DUPRs, especially at Art Club, Fabian, where they've come to me and, oh, my DUPR dropped to XYZ. I played mixed doubles with this girl. But I've also seen it be a motivator for them to really want to get back on the horse and improve and get right back in to the next tournament. And, I just like when it's not an excuse, but it's what Fabian and Tito are doing with their fitness. You guys are setting goals. You want to accomplish these Ironman type events. Like, that's really what I think successful people do. And rather than cry over spilled milk because your DUPR dropped, get it back up. Like, I know how to get my DUPR up. I'm playing in a league where I don't get to choose my partners, but I think it's more fun to play on a team than it is individual tournaments. So I'm not going to complain about it because I signed up for it, and I challenge myself to play well with everybody rather than just have my own select few. So I like if people have an open mind about it and use it as a motivational tool. I think it'd be great for everybody's fitness and mental health to grow each day. I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, man. And listen, I just came from England, right? I was at the English Open, and I was talking to Karen, who runs the English Open. It's the biggest international event in the world in terms of a number of players, and they did a snake draw, right? They did a whole from top to bottom, right? And then they kind of group people based on what the top 20 play here, the next the next 20 play here, the next 20 go there. Listen, guys, the predictability power, then everything that we expected, like 85%, was exactly how it happened. Exactly how it happened. I think I was so happy to see that reflection of accuracy, right? Like, I know people complain, oh, my DUPR went down here and there. Oh yeah, my DUPR went out a little bit there. I think one of the biggest complaints that is very fair is that volatility. When someone hasn't played in a while, they play and there is a lot of movement. We're fixing that. But I think that in many times, guys, when, very few times, someone has come to me with a complaint about their number, and I've gone, looked at their DUPR rating, I've seen how they have been performing in terms of their matches, and I've been like, this looks wrong. Again, I've seen those volatility movements with people with low reliability. That's something they will need to fix. But when someone is 100% reliable and constantly is like, I should be this, I'm like, it doesn't look that bad. When I look at the average matches, who you're playing, who you're competing, and I go very deep into these reports, looks pretty accurate. And again, I think there is, Rick, to your point, there is no secret to it, man. Like, if you go and get better, move better, play better, it will go up. It will definitely go up.
I can verify that he has done this, because one of the things that really impressed me about Tito when I kind of shot my shot on Instagram and said we needed to have you on here was literally within 15 minutes, you immediately sent me this long ass email that had, a very thoughtful response on kind of some of the issues that I had kind of brought up on this video. So thankful that you did that. But you are somebody that stands behind what you say, and you will go dig into that. I want to touch on two things here, because I think people would be upset if we didn't get into this. So one, just really quickly, and I'll let you answer these, but one, touch on reliability, kind of how that works, and the volatility that you've already mentioned, because I think that is a big thing in the community.
Yes.
That kind of can set people on fire. And then second, I really want to dive into the reset that is like the lightning rod for a lot of things DUPR in this last year. So I'll let you start with reliability.
Yeah. Reliability is an extremely important aspect of our rating, right? Because I think one of the main concerns that I hear of people say is like, I play with Fabian, and Fabian got all of the credit, got way more credit of the match than I did. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. When you see different,
no one's ever said that about me.
No, no, but there is different movements, right? That
Right.
player like me and Fabian will play, and the rating moves different depending on the match. And like we both go up. Yeah, but maybe Fabian went up 0.1 and I went up 0.002. And it's like, that's so unfair. I did all of the work in the game. Why is Fabian getting credit? This one, guys, I promise you, drives me crazy, because it's the one I try to explain them more often, and it has nothing to do like the movement of your partner has nothing to do with your movement. Why? Because you think about this, it's a collection of information, right? If this is my 100 game, this one match is a 1% of my whole history. So that 1% of the whole history, that's going to determine how my rating is going to move, because it's going to be how much information do I have from this player. I have 100 matches. This new one is coming in. This one, the recency has a factor. Who I'm playing has a factor. Who I'm playing against has a factor. And then, but this is a different part of the pie, if that makes sense, right? It's a tiny part of the pie. So the movement might not be as aggressive because I have 100 recent games. So yes, you're not going to see radical movements because, by the way, you played last week. I got 10 matches from you. So even this big win is not going to tell me that much of the story. And I need a lot more information. So that's where reliability comes in. That's when weight comes in. And that's what changes and makes DUPR moves. And I think that people don't comprehend that too well on that stuff. That's why reliability is important, because it's just telling us a little bit, how much this match is gonna tell us about your story. How much of this match are we gonna take into the movement? It has nothing to do. They're not parallel. The match, the movement of a player is not parallel. That's it. Why this is so important. We now change reliability quite a bit. We're adding different weights to different percentage of reliability, and we're keeping it a little more consistent. Okay, so we're looking at what it takes to someone to be 100% reliable, and we changed it a little bit, and then we added a couple weights to different areas. Why? Because we're trying to create a little more of predictable movement for people. Because I think, again, one of the biggest things, guys, is that DUPR is a rating that is very different to ratings in other sports. In other sports, you have very competitive players having ratings. Like Rick, you know this. In tennis, all of the kids are UTR, and this is because they want to play college tennis and they know about their number and they're so obsessed with it. And it's just like the parents are crazy about this number, but it's a very small demographic that is using that number. Very small. We are using this with, 75-year-old Joe that, last time he practiced a sport was in high school. So it's very tough to explain some of these complex kind of concepts and have them make sense, because you're playing also a doubles game. Tennis is an individual sport. So reliability is, guys, the percentage of how much is this match gonna tell the story. If you have 100% reliability, obviously, this match is not gonna count. It's not gonna tell us that much of your story, because we have pretty much recent matches from you. We know who you are. And if you wanna be able to improve once you have 100% reliability, you need to overperform consistency for the next couple of matches. That's how you go up. Show me in the next couple of matches that you're gonna be overperform. You have lower, this is going to count for more piece of your story. So this is, Fabian, this is what I was talking before about matches holding you back, right? They don't really mean that much, because at the end of the day, we're looking at the recency and the weight, your current weight of the match within your algorithm. That's what it really matters. Match doesn't really matter. What matters is, how much of the next match is going to count. And then by the way, if you keep overperforming, it's gonna keep adding up. So that's why reliability is so important, because that's what explains the movement of each individual player.
Yeah, and I think the education part here is really important, right? Because anecdotally, you get out there and you've got somebody that maybe hasn't played as many tournaments, hasn't entered as many DUPR logged matches, and their reliability is at a 30%. They play 4 matches and their DUPR literally goes up 0.8, right, over the course of 6, 7, 8 matches, right? So I think just the frustration at the very local level is that there's almost this disparate amount of incremental, growth for somebody who has been playing alongside you the same time, right? But somebody on this end has been grinding and putting their scores in because they want to have an accurate score. This other person maybe hasn't been doing as much, play at the same level essentially, but then the scores just skyrocket, right?
For sure, and I think the key thing here is that, remember, we're just learning about that player. We have way less information, so every match at the beginning is going to have a little more of an impact until it settles. And when it settles, we have enough matches to be able to know who they are. The score settles. Once we have people rated, they're going to be, it's going to settle, and the movement. And by the way, that's exactly why we added the reset, Fabian. I think that's one of the big things is this concept of my rating is stuck. My rating is stuck, I cannot move on my DUPR, because, and then so we decided, hey, we're gonna run a reset. We're gonna run a reset. We're gonna allow people to kind of in full transparency, knowing that, hey, reset is, we're gonna, it's not gonna, we're gonna see, they're not gonna see the changes that they think they're gonna see in most cases, because at the end of the day, it's just kind of like take all of your weight and reliability away and play matches from your entry spot, kind of from a no weighted place, right? By the way, it was crazy because it's pretty crazy that the industry just doesn't want us to make money. It's crazy, everyone thinks that we pay our stuff in monopoly bills. I have no engineers. I don't have data scientists, and that's a very interesting concept. I've always thought, man, when I put ads on the platform, I got killed. Right, we will go killed, and I was like, I want to keep the platform. I want to keep the platform for free. But I'm gonna add ads because I need to pay my stuff. I need to pay our people. I need to do all of the stuff. We do the reset, and people are like, money grab. You guys are just charging us. Like, guys, like, we are a business. We spend $6 million a year, guys, on staff, events, college. We spend so much money on running things in the industry and so many of those things. So it doesn't come for free. And by the way, Reset was a product that we created, and then we had looking at every single player individualized, looking at the whole running the algorithm for them. It was a lot of work, guys. There was a lot of work to be able to put this together. But that was kind of why we put it together. We thought, okay, we're gonna put a fee because it's a lot of work for the team. We're looking at all of these matches. It's 8 weeks. Honestly, the results were extremely positive. Extremely positive. We had 400,000 matches played on Reset. 400,000 plays. You know how many clubs were got tournaments, open plays? You know how much traffic that happened? And by the way, those 400,000 matches helped me with my True North algorithm. All of those matches went into my dynamic True North living thing algorithm to get so much good data to be able to keep adding and knowing where we need to move people according to True North and making those adjustments and so on. So, absolute success. I just think like anything we do in the industry makes a lot of noise. But overall, it was a blessing for the clubs, for the industry. It got some people think, and the reality is that we didn't see insane movement from a lot of people. 50% of people went slightly down, 50% of the people went slightly up because the algorithm is doing what it's supposed to.
Am I understanding it correctly that it seems like you have a mixed doubles rating, a gender doubles rating, and a singles rating, and then the composition of those three go into your overall DUPR rating? Or could you explain that for our listeners?
No. We have our doubles rating includes every doubles match that you play, and your singles is a whole different formula. No, it's a whole different concept. It's its own thing. It's all database. So singles and doubles have nothing to do with each other when it comes to the calculation. Doubles universal, the regular DUPR counts every doubles game, right? We look at all of the averages. We look at who you're playing with, how you're competing, and that gives us kind of the whole picture. Who you are on the pickleball court as a complete pickleball player, right? And that's kind of what we get from the universal. We now added the mixed rating as well, which is available on the app, and any player is able to look at their mixed rating. And this is only looking at the mixed matches. Okay. The reason why we do this is because, again, there was a lot of people that told us, mix is played different. Mix is played completely different, coverage of the court. Listen, I do think, in my opinion, that I think mix is played different at the high level. I think it's played different at the high level. And I don't think it's played different that much at the lower level, to be honest with you. I think you play with different players at the lower level, different places. People play their game. I don't think they're more thinking about how to do their thing rather than court coverage. Rick, you know this, right? At the high level, you're covering different.
Very
you're playing
true.
different. It's strategically it's different. So I think overall it was a really good hit for us to do the mix. And mix is available now, and everyone is able to get it. And then we added age. We added age ratings. We added 50 plus and 65 plus. I was very resistant to this, to be honest with you, because again, I think one of the we have over 20 million matches now on DUPR, right? One of the things that we see on DUPR is that matches are played between people of all ages against each other. This is the only sport where we have players who are 13 with 17-year-olds. By the way, 20% of the DUPR matches are non-traditional, meaning one female with 3 males, 3 males, 1 female, 2 females, 2 males. 20% of that. It's happening in non-traditional ways. So people don't know that. If you think about that, you think how those matches that actually happen at great numbers within the community, we have a very big sample size on how that impacts your DUPR and how that impacts your rating. So that's why we wanted to have this universal concept, because at the end of the day, pickleball is played at the local community with all kinds of different, people playing together at all ages and all of the things. So yeah, I've seen, and Rick, again, you're a senior pro. I always have this conversation. I'm 33 years old now. I play with senior pros all the time. I'm a very, very fit athlete. I run marathons on a Sunday for fun. And I get on the court with senior pros. I'm also a former tennis player, and they kick my butt, and they're 30 years older than me. So people cannot tell me that I know I've heard many times, yes, the older you get, the worse you move. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen. I'm just saying that people are, there exist people who are high fives at mid-60s. They exist. So if they exist, right, it means that level is possible. So that's why we had the universal scale, and we did add the age ratings, guys, also because the community wanted them. And at the end of the day, we're a consumer-based app. We want people to be happy with us. We want to make sure they feel good. So we also added the 50 plus ratings, and we added the 65 plus ratings. And organizers can use whichever they want. You can use the mix if they want to do for mix. They can use the age if they want to use it. But as I said, I think this context that I'm giving you guys, I think is important, because I think sometimes a lot of these issues on the pickleball community, guys, are so black and white. People get so centered on this, and there is so much data that we have. We're not making any of this up, that we see how people are performing at so many different age groups. And again, I always say this, I play with Brian Levine probably more than anyone. And again, I haven't beat Brian Levine once yet, and that's the reality, that's kind of the pickleball community. So yeah.
That's awesome, Tito. The reality is that age is just a number in pickleball, that. And I really feel like, singles is very different than doubles, and mixed doubles, especially at the pro level, is really different. So I was happy to hear your discussion about that. And I really appreciate what you do and what DUPR does. I will say there is one area that I don't agree with, DUPR, and what you've said, and that's okay, because I'm still really glad you guys are here and you guys are continuing to work and improve your product. I just don't think, especially, and this is selfish in the pro world, but if you win, I don't think you should go down. And I understand it's a calibration that if a player that plays a close match against a good player goes up, then something has to move on this end. I get that, but literally, I'm not playing any local tournaments. And I started in Indiana Pickleball League, where I don't want to play in the 4-5+ category, because I'm now a 5-6-6. And I've only seen that be a reverberation down. And I don't want it to hurt me professionally to play with the local 4-5s and 5-0s, which I want to do that. It's in my heart to want to do that. But to affect me when my income is based on my DUPR and seedings and how I'm drafted and whatnot, I feel pros should not go down if they win against other pros, especially when they're not choosing their own partners. But that's not DUPR's problem, choosing partners or not. So I get it, but that's just the one slight area. Yeah.
No, Rick, let me ask you something, because again, I hear this a lot. So when you look at your DUPR right now, right, you have a very high DUPR. You've obviously gone down from winning. You've also gone up. You've also gone up from losing, right? But when you look at your number right now with 100% reliability, do you think it's a reflection of your level, or do you think it's not a reflection of your level?
I think it's a pretty good reflection of my level, for sure. I've seen it was hard. I mean, I just had to win 8 matches in a row, and I went up for 6. That helped me get to closer. I mean, this is where I know I'm more 5'6", 5'7" than I am 5'5". I played a local tournament in Evansville. I played with a guy that had a delaminated paddle that's abusing my mixed partner in a game to 15, and my DUPR drops pretty significantly. And that I wanted to play that tournament because it was at a third shot club. I wanted to help the tournament director, and that kind of hurt me a bit. We also have some players that sub into our league at Championship Series Pickleball, and some of these players really don't have high reliabilities. There is a Carrie Olson that I played last year, and she was like an All-American at UCLA tennis. You know how hard that is, Tito. If you're going to be an All-American D1 tennis player, you know you're coming in as a really strong pickleball player. Lost 11-10 in the third, and my DUPR dropped significantly. But I'm not blaming DUPR. I'm not. It just, I do feel like if you win at the pro level, especially when you're not choosing your partner, which that'd be a hard calibration for you guys to input, I don't think a DUPR should go down, even if it does allow somebody to go out.
Yeah, but Rick, let me ask you something. So because I think this is the perfect example, right? And I know I think this is a little more of a feelings thing rather than an accuracy thing, because I think that ultimately what we're trying to do is show a number that represents your level, right? That's my job. My job is again, it's not about, as I said, it's not a reward system. I'm not trying to reward you for playing or unreward you or punish you and stuff like that. I'm trying to, with the data that I have, give the best representation of what I think Rick is, right? And this is always a quote when people tell me that, and I'm like, okay, so do you feel like, I think you're a 5, almost a 5'7". You're a 5'6", 6'8". You're almost a 5'7". If that number looks good to you and the people around you, that means that we're doing our job, and that's ultimately the mission that I'm trying to get. And it's how I get there, to be able to get the data to make that number reflect your level, means that something is working. And that's also including the days that you didn't perform well or your DUPR went a little more down. But it got you to, that body of data got you to a place, Rick, where when you look at it, you think like, yeah, that's about right. And by the way, when you ask someone else, they're like, oh yeah, that's about right as well. That's exactly what I'm trying to do, guys, right? I'm not, again, this is, the scale is not a punishment. I'm not trying to punish you from those winning go down. I understand the frustration. Trust me, I am a freaking competitor as well. I like to win at absolutely everything. It's horrendous. I'm trying to change, but again, it looks at the average, and then it's even if it's upsetting, you're like, yeah, but all of that things that we did got you to a place that is a pretty accurate representation of who you are as a player. So that's what we feel like we're doing our job. If it's not, if you are a 5'6" and it shows a 4'9", then we have a problem. Then it's wrong. Then we shouldn't be here. But I think that's the part that people are missing with the winning go down. It's like, I promise you, I'm not trying to hurt you. Emotionally, I will feel the same way that you do. The number is looking at the place where it's supposed to be, and that number can be used to place you in the right place, right league, get you drafted by the right teams, and that's ultimately what we're trying to do, if that makes sense.
For sure. And being a league owner and a club owner, I see both sides of things for sure. It's my job to look at it in more of an objective than subjective. And when I look at things, it's not about what do I think for Rick Witscan. It's what do I think for John Doe that could be in my shoes. Legitimately, I'm not playing local tournaments anymore that don't have paddle testing. And it is my choice to play in a league where I don't choose my partner, and I'm okay with where my DUPR goes. But, I respect everything you're saying. I absolutely think this has been super beneficial for me and Fabian, but also our listeners. You really clarified so many misconceptions. And, it's going to be easier for me to explain to people when they say, oh, my DUPR fell down. Now I can talk about it intelligibly. So I'm really glad we had Tito on the show. Fabian, how about you? Did your DUPR go up by listening to Tito?
By 0.002%. So let's go. We're heading in the right direction.
Fabian has been sending me Venmos through the call. I don't know why. So I think he's expecting something from his DUPR or something.
Yeah.
But
You know, and I echo what Rick is saying here. I think this has been super beneficial, not just for us, but for everybody listening. And I know we're getting very close on time, so appreciate you being here. And I know that we've left so much on the table that we could have you here for a part 2, and I would really hope that you would take that opportunity. Just there's so many other questions. So we'll leave people with one piece of advice, and really no better person than to give that than you, for somebody that is looking to make big incremental changes in their DUPR and they actually feel like their skill level is not reflective of what their DUPR score is. What is the best piece of advice that you could give them to make those jumps in their score?
Listen, I think the best representation of a player's level is their actual level and how they play. I think, the best way to improve your DUPR is go and get better, guys. Work on your dink, work on your serve, get a better, make sure that make sure you're getting fitter, make sure you're working with a coach, make sure you're going to your local club, and make sure you're talking to your local pro, playing the events, playing the tournaments, because people ask me all the time, what is the secret to improve your DUPR? Your DUPR is not something that is built to be improved. It doesn't exist. That's not our job. And I know that seems like everything I said before, the reward of going up the scale, that's not the mission of DUPR. The mission is to show with the data that they have what we think your level is. You want your DUPR to go up, playing better, get to play on Fabian's tournament, make sure you get on the court with Rick and have him coach you and tell you that you need to move better this way, you need a better coverage of the court, that you need to make sure you're working on your dinks, make sure you're making smarter decisions and not going aggressive before you're supposed to, make sure you're being patient. That's a big difference between level. And that only comes from drilling, being on the court, getting a good coach, working, playing the right tournaments. The DUPR will follow. Then good performance, it's again like how can I get an A on the test? I need to go and study more. That's truly what we're trying to be an objective metric. And also, guys, more importantly, this is supposed to be a metric, an objective metric, not your personality, not who you are. It's okay being a 2.5. I promise you, it's okay. No, there is no that we've attached this number to our ego. This isn't what we're here for. I have a sticker right here that says DUPR doesn't define me. It's on my desk right here. And I think at the end of the day, guys, all we're gonna do is we're trying to offer level-based play. That's what DUPR is for, so we can help you guys run better tournament, better event, players have a better experience and have fun on the court. The second you start getting better and you stop taking yourself so seriously that this number makes you feel inferior, life gets better, and then you start playing better, and the number starts going up. Trust me.
Very well said. Thank you so much, Tito.
Thank you, guys.
We appreciate you, Tito. Thank you very much today.
Thank you. Hit me up for part 2, guys. Always happy, guys, to answer questions and discuss.
Absolutely. And if you made it this far, thank you guys for listening and watching. Please make sure to subscribe at This Is Pickleball Podcast, wherever you find your podcast, and on YouTube. Again, thank you to Tito, thank you to Rick, and thank you for all the viewers. So we'll catch you next time.
Thank you,
We're out.
Battle
Thank
Tech.
you.